Welcome to the 25th episode of Anyone, Anywhere, Anytime with me, Marshan Kenny. Well, if you're a Southern Miss football fan and you're ready for this football season, you're going to love today's interviews. First up, it's going to be with offensive coordinator Sam Gregg, and next up after that, it's going to be our brand new defensive coordinator, Dan O'Brien. Well, I love the fan comments and the fan interaction for this show, and that's going to come in this next segment that we call Four and Out. Well, this week on Facebook and Twitter, I asked the great Southern Miss Nation, what are some of your favorite Southern Miss tailgating moments? I had a lot of good answers, but I can only get to four of them because that's the name of the segment, Four and Out. First up from Facebook, Lee MacArthur Canoy said, rows and rows of RVs and campers in front of M.M. Roberts Stadium in the 90s. I remember all that tailgating back in the 90s. It was pretty awesome. Next up from Twitter, Common Sense Eagle said, our greatest tailgating moments were when my youngest son was attending Southern Miss and he and all his friends and their families would join us tailgating. Often had 100 plus friends and families show up. Next up from Facebook, Joel McCarty said the family atmosphere. Each week is like a family reunion. And finally from Facebook, Ken Holmes added, going to Eagle Walk and watching the interaction of the fans and the team. Thanks for all those comments right there, Southern Miss Nation. Please keep them coming in. Well, I know we're all ready for that 2023 football season, so I thought today's show would be perfect to bring on the guys who coordinate everything. And first up, the interview is going to be with our offensive coordinator, Sam Gregg. Well, today's interview is with second-year offensive coordinator and offensive line coach for Southern Miss, a guy who's coached 17 All-Americans in his storied coaching career. So with all that said, I'm bringing you the one and only Sam Gregg. And Coach Gregg, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good. I appreciate you having me today.
Oh, heck yeah, man. It's an honor to have you on. And one thing I love about you, you coach those offensive linemen, the guys that like to take guys from point A to point B against their will. So what do you think makes a great offensive lineman?
Well, I think, first and foremost, I think it's mentality. I think you got to have, because it's really not an easy position to play. It's hard on you in practice. You're hitting every play. It's super physical. You're going to be bumped and bruised, but you've got to have the mentality of, I want to do this. I want to be good at it. I want to move this person here when he doesn't want to do it, and then I want to do it again for another 60, 70 plays.
Oh, heck yeah, man. Tough offensive lineman. It doesn't get any better than that, man. And speaking of our offensive line this year, it's one of the biggest in America. I think fifth as far as size. I mean, people are saying it's the best in the Sun Belt with the depth. So talk about this offensive line and what they're bringing to the team this year.
Well, hopefully, one thing I'm really proud of, we had a lot of guys play last year. We got a lot of guys back. And we brought some new kids, some new people in that I think are really going to help us. And, somebody told me about being the biggest in the Sun Belt. I didn't know that, but, if you want to be big, you got to get big kids. You can't. We wanted to be bigger. We wanted to be a little stronger, so we got a little bit bigger, and we're getting stronger all the time. So, just a couple of guys I think to expect a lot from. Number one, Jerquan Scott. I think he's going to be one of the best players in the Sun Belt. His mentality right now is awesome. He's taken on a little bit of a leadership role. And how he's worked this summer, this spring, he's dropped a little pounds. He's changed how he looks a little bit. And, man, he's had a great I'm really excited to kind of see what he brings to the table. From a leadership, from a player. We got a tough schedule this year. Bring it on. And I can't wait to see him play against some of these bigger teams. And I think the sky's the limit for him. Bryson Mays has had a really good career here. Awesome to have him back. We've moved him outside. I'm going to leave him outside. And, I thought once we made that move last year, that kind of started propelling us into a little bit different direction. So, I'm excited I'm excited to see what we do this year.
Oh, heck yeah, coach. The improvements with your coach and the offensive line has made in year two. I mean, it's just pretty noticeable. So looking for some big holes for like Frank Gore and what have you. But man, you said the schedule. You know, it's year three of Will Hall, year two of you, but the schedules, it's a nice one, man. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. Well, we're at Southern Miss. That's just what we're going to do. We're going to play teams that are relevant. We're not playing a bunch of people that don't matter. And, hey, let's see what happens. I tell you what, I don't think we'll be worried or nervous or scared when we show up into some of these places.
Heck yeah, when I talk to the players, I can just see it in their eyes. There's a different vibe going to this season. It's a lot of fun, man. And talking about Coach Will Hall, man, you guys are Amory, Mississippi natives. You guys go way back to your childhood. You guys coached together for years in college. I mean, just a great relationship between you guys. What's it like working with Coach Hall and the type of relationship you guys have?
Well, it's I guess the best way to say it is it's easy. This coaching can be a stressful, it can be a grind a little bit, but when Will called me about the opportunity that was going to be here, it took me about 15 minutes to make the decision, and I hung up off the phone with him, and I called Mandy, and we talked about it for about 10 minutes, and we decided, it was a great opportunity not to just be back with Will and Rebecca, but the opportunity to be with so many other people that we've coached with throughout our career. And from when we were at West Alabama to West Georgia, we've really made some really good friends. And with that, we know they know what to expect from me. I know what to expect from them, and I think it makes it easier in a lot of aspects.
I can only imagine. It's building a great culture right there, man, with the relationships being formed on campus for sure. So getting some X's and O's, your offensive philosophy, the run versus the pass. What's your mindset with that in the offense?
Well, we're going to run the ball. So that's what we're going to do. I'm disappointed anytime somebody shuts that down from us. It's got to be your mentality, especially in a league that we play in, where you're going to play a great team every week, and there's really no off weeks. You're going to have to be able to run the ball, and you've got to establish the line of scrimmage. And you can't establish the line of scrimmage, in my opinion, when you're dropping back and you're throwing it, and it's just a mentality that Will wants to have, and it's a mentality that I want to have.
Man, with that mentality, how much fun was that last year in the bowl game when seeing Frank Gore Jr. break records on the ground, man? It was like watching a PlayStation video game. How much does that mean to you with what Frank did in that game?
Well, it's always good for Frank, man, because he's an awesome kid. He does a great job here. He's such a humble kid that wants to please his coaches. He wants to please the guys he plays with. And, it's awesome to see him do good.
Oh, yeah, he's got that smile that lights up a room, man. Every time I see him, I had him on the show, and I couldn't stop smiling with that smile. So, but he's one of the best players in America now. I think a Gore for Heisman campaign, that's just me, coach. That's just me. But, man, with that said, I mean, obviously the quarterback situation the first 2 years with Coach Hall was a little unstable, couldn't get the right guy on a permanent basis, had to turn to super back. What are your thoughts on that super back, and maybe this year even seeing that some?
Well, I'm sure that's not something we'll run away from. I think that's something we'll always have in our back pocket. It's something that people are going to have to be ready for every time they play us. And that's just, Will and them the first year kind of stumbled on that out of necessity. And now I think it's just something that we can do because, Frank can do so many things from throw it to run it to he could probably in a pinch be the quarterback, and we're going to add to that and maybe show some different looks this fall, but bring back some of those things we know that are hard to prepare for.
Oh yeah, man. If I think as a linebacker, I had to prepare for super back you on top of everything else, man. I'd have some sleepless nights, man. So, but speaking of the quarterback room, got some transfers in, Wiles and Edwards, and those guys looked the part. So looking for big things. You got Wilkie in the mix, and shoot, Lang last year showed what he could do in the fourth quarter against Arkansas
Right.
State. So talk about this quarterback room, coach, because it's under the microscope, to expect some big things this
Yeah.
year.
Well, I definitely think we're leaps and bounds in front of where we've been in the past. Not that those guys weren't good players that we had. They might not have necessarily been the fit that we were looking for or whatever. But we've definitely got some guys in there that are competing for that job right now. And I'm really excited to see what happens at this fall camp. I think it's going to come down to the end. They're both of these guys coming here awesome. They are. I tell you what, if my son grows up to be like either one of them, I'll consider myself pretty lucky. So they both bring different things to the table. They both have excellent leadership qualities, and I tell you what, now it's competition for them every day, but they're a joy to be around.
Oh, heck yeah, man. Competition just makes everybody better. But yeah, people are fired up to see who's under center September 2nd for sure. And sometimes within the offense over the past year or two, man, when you got into trouble, you kind of had a deep threat just to throw it up to maybe if you need be, and that was Jason Brownlee. I mean, he was such a weapon for you. How do you replace somebody like Brownlee at the wide receiver position?
Well, you don't ever replace somebody like him. He's always somebody that brought something a little different. But I tell you what, man, we've got some guys here that are going to come into their own this year. Caston's going to come in there and do some things, and so will Frog. I think they'll do some things. And we've got some young kids that are coming across. One thing that Will has done here that I think has been overlooked a little bit is we are growing a team. And we're not just going out there and getting some quick fixes. We're also have guys that we're getting into our program, into our culture, and this thing is getting built the right way. So it's hard to lose Jason. But when you do, you got other guys that's got an opportunity now to show what they can do. And one thing about Pop Lindsay is he is an awesome recruiter. He's an awesome evaluator. And I'll promise you, he'll have those guys exactly where they need to be when it's time to play a game.
Oh, heck yeah. Recruiting's going fantastic. Just saw the 24 class, the G5 best in America. I mean, we're building something special here. And that message, you just kind of hit on a little bit. What I love with all the transfer portal things going on in college football, you got a theme going. Stay in Mississippi. Come, keep it here. How strong has that message been for recruits and to keep it home?
Well, that's, I just think that's our message. That's just what we have going here. And not that we don't look at everybody when they come, but Mississippi is a special place. It was such a great opportunity for me to come back. I wanted to be back. I wanted to be back here amongst my friends and my family. And we do have something special here. Southern Miss is different. And, the culture that Will is building, it is not just winning games. It is where are you going to be in 5 years? Where are you going to be in 10 years? What kind of man are you choosing to be? And, hopefully some of those lessons are learned on the football field, but we have coaches, we have other support staff that are pushing them in the direction for them to be great husbands and fathers and community leaders well past football.
Oh, that's a great way to put it. I mean, every interaction I've had with Southern Miss football players, I mean, the current ones, it's just you come away feeling good. These are some great young men. So, yeah, great job with the culture you guys are building right there, and big things I know in the future for that. Hey, Coach, I want to ask you something, man. I'm an old football guy, linebacker. When I played, it was kind of run heavy, kind of pounded out offenses a little bit more, starting to spread it out over time.
Yeah.
So the progression from run in college football, pass and spread it out. So what the future might hold, do you see this spread sticking? I mean, what are you thinking? Going back to run one day?
Well, spread doesn't necessarily mean we're going to throw it. You know, we're trying to get, you know, we want a physical presence at every position, you know, and we want to spread guys out and get our players against their defenders that might struggle in space. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, one thing about this sport is it always cycles around. It always cycles around. You know, I was just listening to a podcast, you know, we could, you know, who knows? Maybe we'll be under center running the beer in 10 years again, you know, like we did in high school and like so many people do now. Who knows? But it's definitely going to cycle around. Defenses are going to adjust to what we're doing, and then we're either going to have to change or we're going to become stagnant. So, you know, it's something that's always going to cycle around and cycle through. And you know, who knows? Maybe we'll be in too tight in the eye and running power and lead right at you.
Man, Coach, I'm old school, man. I'm Mr. Wishbone a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I like scores 3-0, man. 10-3. I like those kind of scores. But, you know, you guys score a lot of points. I'll be proud and I'll be cheering. You know that, man.
Those 10 threes, boy, they take years right off your life. I'd rather have something different.
Oh, no doubt about it, man. The landscape of college football, we kind of hit on that a little bit with the NIL and transfer portal, things going on there. A little bit different vibe in college football from years past. What's your take on the NIL and the transfer portal?
Well, to me, it gives kids opportunity, you know, and some people are for it, some people are against it. It really doesn't matter. It's here. It's probably going to be here to stay. So, you know, to me, let me say the nice way to say this. You know, coaches today are going to have to invest in these kids instead of, you know, you're going to have to invest in your players. You're going to have to invest. It's not just we're going to recruit them, we're going to get them there, and then we're going to move forward. We're going to have, if you want them to stay and be a part of your team, I think you're going to have to interact with those guys and be a part of their lives. And the things you say in recruiting, or now kids are going to be able to hold you to that. So if you're not going to tell the truth or you're going to say this means something else, I think you've got to be honest and even brutally honest with these guys when you're recruiting them, so they understand where you are, what you're thinking, and where their place is on the team. And if it doesn't add up with that, they're probably going to hit the portal.
Yeah, and getting recruiting real quick. I mean, obviously you want the physical aspects of the young men, but what are some things maybe you look at besides the physical attributes of a young guy that'll fit in the culture of Southern Miss?
Well, we're definitely looking for character, you know, and I don't know, man. To me, and I think this has always held true, if you've got a guy that loves football, you know, that loves the aspect of football, being a part of a team, being a part of a group that's trying to accomplish a goal, I think you're going to be okay. But you can never, you know, I don't think you can ever slack on character. You know, you got to have guys that's the right character, that's the right fit. You can't, and that's one thing we tell them. You know, this is Will's deal. We're when you come to Southern Miss, we're not going to become you. You're going to become us. And you know, I think we're always truthful with them. We tell them right on, and you know, sometimes those are hard conversations to have with kids. But to me, it's best. I can always put my head on the pillow when I know I've told them the truth. You know, I didn't stretch the truth. I didn't say something to make them feel better. In that moment, it was hard, but you've got to tell them the truth.
Yeah,
if you want them to stay, if you want them to stay and you want them to be a part, you know, because it doesn't matter what kind of job you're in, what kind of deal you're doing. Nobody wants to be lied to and not feel like, you know, they're being told the truth.
Oh, heck yeah, Coach. Even in business life today, man, when people tell me the truth, I tell my kids that all the time. So that's an excellent point, man. Hey, Coach, right now, you know, we're kind of wrapping up July. It's getting to be to August. I mean, you're a football guy. I'm a football guy, man. You starting to get that kind of adrenaline pump a little bit more, getting ready for camp?
Well, I can't wait, man. I'm just going to tell you, I can't wait. We've given the guys off a little bit, you know, a couple of days here to get their feet under them and get away a little bit for that kind of last bit before we get going next week. And I can't wait to get them back. You know, when we first got here, there was a lot of between the offense and the defense and everybody. But now, man, that really doesn't exist. We got a bunch of guys kind of pushing and pulling towards the same deal. And, man, I'm excited to get them back. I'm excited to see them. I'm excited to, hopefully we've got them in a place where a situation where they're going to succeed on the field the way we expect them to this year.
Oh, I love it, Coach. You got my adrenaline pumping right there. I'm ready for September 2nd, Coach. I'm ready. So, man, with that said, Coach, we're kind of closing things up. What's a message you might have for the Southern Miss fans about this season and the future?
Hey, man, we want to see you in the Rock. It's there's a lot of people do a lot of work here to try to give a great to put a great product out there on the field for Hattiesburg and for South Mississippi and this area, the Pine Belt area. And then let me tell you, I know how easy it is to sit at home and watch the game on TV, but man, we would love to see the Rock Pack this year because it is such an advantage when that place is. We have some of the best fans in the country, man, and when we load it in there, it's a great place to be and it's a fun place to play.
Oh, man, there's no place I'd rather be on a Saturday. And the first two home games, man, Alcorn State. I mean, it's just going to be a big crowd and Tulane game. That's a whole nother animal. That's going to be a blast, man.
It's going to be, I'm telling you, I'm looking so forward to it.
Heck yeah, Coach. Well, everybody sees the great job you're doing. I mean, the progression of the offensive line, one of the biggest in America this year. I'm fired up about that, man. And so with all that said, Coach, I think everybody enjoy us closing the show with giving them a big Southern Miss
to the top.
To the top. Well, hopefully you got a good look at that Southern Miss offense and things to come this fall from our offensive coordinator, Sam Gregg. Next up in the show is going to come with our brand new defensive coordinator, Dan O'Brien, to preview that nasty bunch defense. Well, we've got a new defensive coordinator in-house, but I promise you, people, we are in great hands. It's his third year on the staff. He's a guy who's had football in his blood his entire life. So with all that said, I'm bringing you new defensive coordinator, Dan O'Brien. And, Coach, how are you today?
I'm doing well, doing really well, getting ready to get rolling here in another 5 to 7 days.
Oh, heck yeah, man. I could feel it. We're starting to get that smell of that August grass coming. And, man, I'm going to kind of get right to a direct point. When I say the phrase nasty bunch, what does that mean to you?
Well, it's what this place has been built on over the years. I mean, it's a tenacity, it's a aggressiveness, it's a attacking style of play. It's a physicality that you go on the field and you make people quit and try to take their will and take their heart and soul while you're out there. So.
Ooh, Coach, I got chills you saying that right there, man. I couldn't have put it any better. That's awesome right there. Now, this year's defense, man, people are saying even the front seven's the best in the Sun Belt. I mean, from top to bottom, I think we're loaded. What are your expectations for this year's defense?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of areas we can improve in. We know that as a staff and as a unit. So, the one thing we've done a really good job over the last year and a half or so is we've built a lot of depth. Talking about that front seven of, having more than a 2 deep, really, you got a 3 deep and plus one in a lot of positions. So we got a lot of talent, a lot of size, a lot of athleticism that, you don't usually see at this level. And, a lot of those guys have come from the SEC. So we're, joking with Coach Armstrong in the past, we used to call ourselves the 6th or 7th best team in the SEC West. So, no, we're fired up, and we know we got a lot of talent. If we can stay healthy, we got a chance to do a lot of really good things.
Heck yeah, and get some respect, too. The preseason Sun Belt teams came out. First team from the secondary, Jay Stanley, and the defensive line. Second team Sun Belt, Jalen Williams. In particular, those two guys, what do you expect out of them?
Yeah, Jay's kind of grown over the last 3 years here. He's matured and got a better feel for the position. He's a guy who has the ability to make a lot of plays. I mean, he makes plays that most people don't, in terms of, he'll be chasing a guy down the field and instead of tackling him, he's ripping that ball out, or, he reads the quarterback's eyes and he's able to undercut a receiver and go make a great play on an interception, like he did last year in the South Alabama game. So, and In fact, I just erased off my whiteboard here, but he had come in my office the other day and wrote, Jay Stanley is going to break the interception record here at Southern Miss. So, it's just that mindset that he brings and the way he attacks every day that, brings a little different level of football to this place. And he pulls guys with him in terms of he's going to get everybody to elevate their game to his level. As for Jalen, I mean, Jalen's a super talented kid. He can play every down for you, whether it's first, second, or third down. You can move and slant him. You can just let him play technique, and his mindset. He's going to go try to whoop the guy across from him every snap. So, it's fun to be able to coach those type of players.
Oh, heck yeah. And, Coach Armstrong departed after 2 years as DC. You're coming in. Some of your coaching philosophies that are maybe the same or different. What can we expect out of your defense?
The attacking style of play that Coach Armstrong brought to the table is still going to be there. I mean, we aren't going to sit back and let offenses dictate to us what we can do. We're going to dictate to the offense that we will do it. Outside of that, some of the terminology has changed. Some of the techniques and matches and coverage will have changed, but for the most part, a lot of the same stuff that we put out there, the last 2 years is carrying over to this operation still. So I've made my tweaks and adjustments of what I'm used to in my past history, but for the most part, we're gonna close a lot of windows in the pass game, and we're gonna attack people in the run game.
Again, and you got a unique position right there. And I had one of your players on my show recently who plays the position, the Machine, Avery Hobbs. I love that name, the Machine. But talk about that jack linebacker position, because he's got to do a lot of stuff. Defensive end, rush the passer, also getting space and cover. Talk about that jack linebacker position.
Yeah, so it's a hybrid defensive end, inside backer spot. I mean, Hobbs is the type of guy that actually played some inside linebacker here. I believe our first year here before we moved him back to jack. So, but those guys, they got to be able to do a lot of different things, whether it's cover, carry a tight end vertical, play man-to-man on somebody, but also have the elite level pass rushing skills that those guys have. It makes you not want to drop them at times because you got guys like Josh Carr and Jaleel Clemens and Hobbs. Those guys have certain traits and abilities when you cut them loose off an edge that they can get to the quarterback super quick. And, you got to change it up every once in a while, and you got to drop them out of there just to show you can do it. But you also want to cut those guys loose in passing situations and let them go eat.
Oh, heck yeah. And with a nickname like the Machine, you got to let them go eat sometimes, man. So I love that. But talking about the linebacker room, too, in particular, I mean, you got some experience coming back off an injury with Hayes Maples and Swayze Bozeman. And that linebacker room, it looks pretty deep right now considering that whole front seven. So talk about the linebacker room in particular.
Yeah, you got Swayze and Hayes both coming back off injury. They did some stuff at the end of spring and have done stuff all summer. So we're excited about where we're at, bringing those two guys back. You got TQ Newsome, who played a lot of meaningful reps last year. Really, with those three guys, those are three guys that can play either or spot. You got Jalen Sims, who's a newcomer in January, who, starting to pick it up and has a natural knack to play the position. Colby Cage, just to name a few guys that we feel like, give us a lot more depth at that position and give us a lot of ability, because the game has changed. I mean, the game's become a speed perimeter game now. We're probably one of the few offenses that try to pound you and bloody your nose, which is good for us because it keeps our physicality and on edge. But, the game's changed a lot in terms of everything's a perimeter play now, especially when you got a really good defensive front where, they struggle to run the ball on you. They got to set it up with the pass game. So, but we're excited about the depth we got at the inside linebacker position. And, those guys are all super smart kids that can get people lined up, make checks and adjustments as well, and play with a different type of physicality as well.
Yeah, and you said Colby Cage right there. He's a New Orleans guy. I'm a New Orleans guy, so please tell him I said what's up and who that. So, but
Absolutely.
Also, Coach, you try to keep chemistry, of course. And last year, one of my favorite players to watch was Malik Shorts. You lost him. How do you keep that chemistry going with that kind of leadership lost off the team?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, Malik bled black and gold, and gave everything he had to this university, and He was one of my favorite players to coach. It was hard to see him go. We had a tough meeting in my office when he made the decision, and, we hugged it out and maybe some tears were shed, but it's tough to lose somebody that brings that much to the table. But at the same time, we got a lot of really good players in the secondary, and, I think people will be surprised when our secondary walks out on the field that they'll look at them, and a lot of them will be looking up at them because they're so much bigger than what we see in the league. So, but we have a lot of length and a lot of size in the secondary, and then we got a lot of other guys that are stepping up in those key roles to fill in those spots where some guys have left behind.
Yeah, great way to put it. Malik was so fun to watch. What a great leader, and he'll always be a great Golden Eagle for sure. Let's get away from X's and O's a little bit real quick, Coach. I mean, you got a great coaching history, and it was always in your blood. Your dad's a legendary football coach, Tom O'Brien. How is that being raised in that kind of football household?
Well, it's probably like when you talk to Coach Hall about him being raised by a coach. I mean, you're just around the game so much. You're around the players. You see the relationships that are built between coach and player. And I used to invite some of the players to my birthday party when I was a little kid, just because. No, I mean, watching him and his interactions and the way he coached the players and loved the players at the same time, and seeing the fruits of his labor as the years went on, and watching those guys go on to play in the NFL or get big time jobs elsewhere, and just continue those relationships. It struck a chord with me and hit home, obviously. And, I remember the day I decided I wanted to get in this profession, and, the first question out of my mom's mouth was, "Are you sure?" But no, I mean, it was just growing up in that environment. It felt like the right calling for me.
And when you get in your coaching career, you're either an offensive guy, you're a defensive guy. There's not much middle ground. Why'd you choose defense?
Well, to be honest, my dad was an offensive guy his whole life. He played some defensive end, but he was an offensive guy his whole life. O-line, quarterbacks, tight ends, coached a little bit of everything on that side of the ball. But growing up in Boston, in high school and college, there, Coach Belichick was down the road of the New England Patriots, and he's known as one of the best defensive minds in all of football. So I just kind of got gravitated towards that side of the ball. I like to be the guy that necessarily doesn't know what's coming next, but having to find a way to create a way to stop it. So.
Oh, heck yeah. And you took words out of my mouth right there. Right when you graduated from Boston College, I mean, you got a job right away with the New England Patriots as an assistant. And but you kind of got thrown into the fire pretty fast. I came to learn that you were the guy designated to go cut the players who were being released for the team. You talk about building some grit early on in your life. How was that, man? That was part of your job, telling the guys their NFL career is over, or they're with the team at least.
Yeah, no, it was. So I shared that with the team last year on a Friday night. One night we were talking about doing your job, and I put the picture in the Patriots facility that says "Do your job" and basically what it's defined as. And I told him I was the Turk, and that's the nickname they gave the guy, or the Grim Reaper, however you want to look at it. But I was the young 20-year-old walking the hallways, and guys were ducking and diving into doorways and out the way to try to escape me because they didn't know who I was coming to get. But heck, I had to chase a guy to the parking lot one time and tell him to turn around and come back inside. But it was you gotta take your licks when you can, and you learn how tough life can be sometimes for some people because you're taking away dreams. But no, it was a good experience for me to be the bottom level guy, and kind of learn the ropes as you're going, and got introduced to the scouting world in the NFL right there. So.
Oh, heck yeah. And I mean, you coached under right there, you said Bill Belichick, and you went up going to Alabama being an assistant coach under Nick Saban. I mean, how was that with those two guys? I mean, they're legends of the game.
Yeah, so my dad actually worked with Belichick's dad at the Naval Academy when he was coaching. So that's kind of what got me in there. And then my dad told me, he's like, look, if you want to coach defense, you can coach the secondary. That's what you need to coach. You always start your way from the back to the front. And then he said, if you're going to go do it, go learn from the best. So, I got the opportunity to go to Alabama. I got there day one of spring ball, so it was chaos. but it was a great experience. Coach Saban is hands-on with the secondary there. So, I was his shadow for 3 years as a GA or 2 years as a GA before I moved into one of those off the field roles. But, it was great to listen to him coach, the way he coaches, the way he expects things to be done. That was always my one claim to fame around there was I never got hollered at by Coach Saban because, maybe being a coach's kid, you learn how to follow instruction and do things the right way to where, I do it exactly the way he wanted it, how he wanted it. And, obviously it paid off again when I went to Georgia because Coach Smart's very similar in the operation of day-to-day basis.
Oh, yeah. Your coaching resume is so strong. You said Georgia, Bama. I mean, you got Patriots experience. But one stop that you just mentioned, I mean, the utmost respect for this crew, the Naval Academy, man. You were there for years coaching those guys. What's that like being a part of the Naval Academy and just coaching those type of young men who are so special?
Yeah, so it was a great experience. Obviously it was one that hit home hard with my dad. That was one place he always wanted to go coach and be a head coach and never got that opportunity. But, he obviously was an assistant on George Welsh's staff there years ago. But, the opportunity to go there came and, it was an unbelievable opportunity, unbelievable kids you get to coach there. Those guys, the stuff they have to do on a daily basis and missing out on sleep because of schoolwork, doing schoolwork till 2, 3 in the morning, and then having to get up at 7 or 8 in the morning to go to class. And, getting the opportunity to coach in some of those Army Navy games where there's some big time government officials there. And, there's, SEAL teams and everybody else hunting down or walking around the stadium, making sure it's secure. And, you can just feel it on those Saturdays, whether it be at the Naval Academy or playing in that game. That is just something totally special.
Oh, man, the Navy Army game, that's bucket list stuff for me. I got to get to one eventually. You coached in it, man. That's incredible to me. So congrats on that. And Coach, real quick, the college football landscape right now, we got the NIL and the transfer portal. So what's your take on those two avenues in college football?
Yeah, so NIL is obviously something new. Let's be honest, kids have been getting paid for a long time in recruiting, but now it's legal. So it'll be interesting to see where that takes college football, whether or not the NCAA and how much the NCAA will try to get involved and see if they can put a cap on it or not. But obviously the Power Fives are the ones that right now are benefiting probably the most, the ones especially that have the ability to pay the players the most. That's really what it's coming down to in recruiting a lot of times. And then it's like you just said, it's filtered into the transfer portal as well. Obviously the transfer portal has been really good to us in terms of guys coming in. And then, the culture here Coach Hall has built has allowed the transfer portal not to hurt us because our kids are happy here. Our kids, thrive in our environment. They love it here. We love them as coaches and staff. So, we do everything we can to take care of these kids and help them in any way possible. And it's ultimately helped us in terms of not losing anybody. Obviously, these bigger teams have tried to, dabble in the little poaching kids here and there. But, for us, it's been really good because our kids are just so happy here. And, through NIL, you've been able to help them out as well.
Oh, that's a great way to put it too, man. Incredible culture being built. I mean, and you can see in the recruiting trail next year, I know you saw the 2024 class, the best G5 recruiting class in America. You guys are doing something right, Coach. So, but talking about talent and what have you, we got it in year 3, but this schedule, man, it's one of the better ones we've had in years. I know you like a challenge being a defensive guy. Talk about this schedule.
Yeah, it's always exciting to get named the defensive coordinator in your first 3 games. You got to play Florida State and Tulane, who are both in New Year's bowl games. But no, I see it as a great opportunity. Again, we have a lot of talent on our team. We got Alcorn coming in here who supposedly has already been talking some trash about it. So we're excited about that one. And then moving again into Florida State, Tulane, you got Mississippi State on the road right before the Egg Bowl, which probably is good timing for us. They'll be playing a 6 or 7 game SEC slate up until that point. So, having coached in the SEC, what type of physicality and speed that brings. So, they'll have their bumps and bruises. We'll have our bumps and bruises because of the teams we play as well in the Sun Belt. But, we're excited about it. You got a couple national TV games and, Florida State being at night. Can't wait to see the Chief Osceola ride out there on his horse and throw that spear down on fire. So I'm fired up for that one. But, we're just going to take it one game at a time and attack it one game at a time and see where it takes us.
Yeah, Florida State game's interesting, too. A teammate of mine who's in the Southern Miss Hall of Fame, great cornerback in the NFL, Patrick Surtain's their defensive back coach, man. It's a little Southern Miss ties right there with that big game. But the Rock should be great with Alcorn and Tulane. Fans should be all over the place for those two. Fired up about it. Coach, as we kind of close things up here and then start wrapping things up, what's a message you have for the Southern Miss fans?
Bring it out to the Rock. We're going to put a product out there this year that everybody's going to be fired up about. And, Coach Hall and the offensive guys and us on defense, we're doing everything we can to get this place back to where it was in its heyday. And, we're bought into the program. We got, administration that's bought into the program. So, we're going to put something out there that's going to give people something to tweet and post on IG. So it'll be fun.
Oh, I want my Twitter to be busy bragging about the nasty bunch. Coach, bring it, man, bring it. So, but like I said, it's his first year as defensive coordinator here, but we couldn't be in better hands with Coach Dan O'Brien. I can't thank you enough for being on the show today, Coach.
I appreciate you having me on. Excited about it. It's great to talk with another nasty buncher.
Heck yeah, man. I feel the vibes, the synergy. So, but I think a great way to close this show would be me and you giving the Southern Miss fans a big Southern Miss
to the top.
Well, I enjoyed talking some nasty bunch defense right there with our defensive coordinator, Dan O'Brien. Well, that's it for another edition of Anyone, Anywhere, Anytime. And all I ask of you to do, it's absolutely free to do, and that's help spread the word of the show. Retweet it on Twitter if you're enjoying this. Repost it somewhere, or just tell your friends and family what a great show this is. So until next time, as always, it's Southern Miss to the top.